Hi, everybody. It's Antoinette McQueenie, and you're very welcome to this first little talk about thyroid issues. Mary, you're there. Hi, Katrina. How are you, ladies? I have declared in my private group, which is called Homeopathic Solutions for Problematic Periods, I have declared November to be Thyroid Month because a lot of the people that I am seeing have thyroid issues now, or else they're on their way to having thyroid issues. Hey, Risha. Risha's joining us as well. And Sandy, hello. Oh, all the homeopaths are in. Ooh, pressure. So tonight I'm just kicking off with explaining what our thyroid does, some of the symptoms that come on when there is disruption in our thyroid, some of the things that causes these disruptions in the first place, and 2 tips for dealing with thyroid issues now, whether they've actually started or if you just have some of these symptoms. Just because you have some of the symptoms that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, it doesn't actually mean that there is an issue with your thyroid. It doesn't mean you need to get onto altroxin straight away. You know, this is just about sharing information and creating awareness and just letting you have a bit of a think about it. A lot of the people that I treat have issues like fibromyalgia, and thyroid dysfunction is huge in all of that. And the one thing that all of those people have in common is masses and masses of stress. Maybe not so much now, but previously a lot of stress, which is very much connected to thyroid problems. Hey ladies, loads of you here. This is great. Siobhan's in as well. So the thyroid, let's get started. The thyroid is a little butterfly shaped gland that's in the neck, and it's connected to lots of different systems in our body, but I suppose the one that people know it most for is its role in metabolism, and that is how your body uses up all the energy. And if there is dysfunction in the thyroid, it can use up all that energy very, very quickly, or it can go sluggish. It can go the other way and use it very, very slowly. And if you have issues with an underactive thyroid, that means it's just very slow, and everything in your body is slow. You feel sluggish, you might be constipated, you're exhausted, heaviness, you've got heavy muscles, heavy legs, taking a step is hard, and you're exhausted. And this is a different sort of tiredness to your regular, normal, day-to-day tiredness. And I just got off consultation with somebody. She's a mum of 3 children, and she started, after the last baby was born, having these pains in her body, everywhere in her body, and then she just felt heavy. She said the exhaustion was unnatural. And I've been working with her since August, and I spoke to her today, and she said she feels so much better. Those pains, that heaviness is gone, and what she's feeling now is a normal type of tiredness because she has a baby who's teething. And there is a difference between your normal tiredness and this horrible, mind-numbing tiredness. It's like dragging yourself through treacle. It's that level of exhaustion. Then if your thyroid is overfunctioning and it's using up energy too quickly, you will probably lose weight. That's often the first thing people notice. They either put on weight very easily or lose weight very easily. So if it's overfunctioning, you will lose weight easily. You don't feel sluggish, but you feel revved up, and not in a good way. It's huge restlessness and insomnia, wired all the time, not able to settle down, not able to relax. And with both of them, there can be hair loss. So people often notice around here, they start to lose their hair, or parts of the eyebrows go. Sometimes women come to me and they've no eyebrows left at all. The hair is just falling out. And I don't know why that happens, but it is something to do with thyroid issues. And it's becoming the norm now for women to come in here and they're telling me they're on their 150 of L-troxin, or their 100 every second day. It's a very common question I ask now: how much L-troxin are you on? It's become the norm, and especially as women enter into perimenopause and menopause, it's generally accepted that, well, this is something that happens now when you're menopausal. And I don't believe that for a second, not for 1 second. I don't believe our bodies are so weak that they start to fall apart just as we enter a different phase in our lives. So don't accept it as it's something you have to put up with. that it's your destiny. If your mother had it, if then your sister has it, it doesn't have to be your destiny as well. Loads of people on. This is great. It's great. So there are tests that you can have done. If you have any of these symptoms, you can go and you can have tests. And the only problem is the tests aren't really all that reliable, and the range that they're looking at varies hugely from one country to another. So what would be considered a problem somewhere in Europe would be considered normal here. So that's an issue. They're not very reliable. And then some people are showing up as having an issue in the tests, and they're being given their altroxin or their other thyroid medication, and their body isn't able to absorb it, and it's making absolutely no difference. So now they are under-functioning or over-functioning, they're on medication, but nothing's happening. So, and that's a tough one, that's really hard for people. And so the tests are really, they're kind of dodgy, and I would always ask people when they come to me for treatment to wait a few months before they have tests done, and not to really put all their faith in tests. The thyroid is part of a whole system in our body. It's called the endocrine system, and it affects, it's connected to the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the ovaries in women, the adrenals, pancreas. It's all, I see it like this beautiful chain of pearls, a beautiful string of pearls, and the thyroid is just one of those lovely pearls. But if something happens to one of the other pearls, it gets smashed or it gets tarnished or it gets scratched in some way, then the strength and the value of the whole string of pearls is affected. So what I'm saying really is something that affects the other glands in this endocrine system will also have a knock-on effect on your thyroid. And the main one, not the main one of them, the first one I'm going to talk about is your adrenals. Your adrenals are these little glands, tiny little glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and their job is to help with stress. And when you're in a stressful situation, they will produce adrenaline that gives you that extra boost that you need to deal with that problem at hand. And so if it's a bear chasing you down the street, your adrenals will kick in and they'll produce a massive amount of adrenaline that will help you to get faster, be stronger, to fight. And this is happening daily with us ladies. We're in this fight or flight mode all the time. We're constantly stressed, constantly waiting for that bear to attack us. But of course, that's not going to happen. So we have all this adrenaline rebounding around our bodies. And the adrenals, the adrenal glands that produce the adrenaline just get worn out. They flatline. And it's really, really important that our adrenals are in good health before we hit menopause, because they take over part of the role of producing estrogen when our ovaries stop doing it. So now is the time, ladies, to strengthen up those adrenals by looking at the stress in your life. And the problem is then when the adrenals are knackered and worn out, the thyroid tries to take over, and it tries to do a job that's not really meant to do. And then when the adrenals, or when the thyroid gets really exhausted, the adrenals try to kick back in, and you've just got this horrible seesaw the whole time of two really exhausted glands trying to help each other out. And it's not very nice. And women are in this state of thyroid dysfunction and adrenal fatigue the whole time. So do start looking at your stress. That's what I'm going to come on to now. The two main things that I see that cause issues with thyroid, and there are others, and I'm going to talk about them as the month goes on. I want to talk about fluoride in the water, and I want to talk about iodine, and I want to talk about the goiter belt. But the two that I'm talking about tonight are stress and synthetic hormones. So remember I said with hormones, with glands, that something that affects one of them will have a knock-on effect on all of them. And the main one is synthetic hormones, and that can be in the form of fertility drugs. I've got a few people who were put onto thyroid medication who didn't actually need it, but they were going through IVF, and they were left on thyroid medication, and it ended up afterwards that they went into hyperthyroidism, and they were just left on these, quite damaging drugs for a long time. So there's fertility drugs, IVF, any sorts of, trigger shots, Clomid, that sort of thing, contraceptive pill, and the marina coil, and those two are my bugbear, and I talk about them a lot. And I have been on the pill myself for about 15 years. Did a great job of stopping periods. And by the way, when you're on the pill and you get a bleed, that's all it is. It's not a period, it's a bleed. It's a managed medical bleed. So these things, these contraceptives, they don't just stop or shut down or suspend activity in the ovaries. They have that knock-on effect the whole way, right up here, the adrenals, everywhere. So have a think about your contraceptives. If you're still on contraceptives, especially the coil, please just have a think about how often you actually make use of that. How many times a month is there need for that in your life? And could you maybe substitute it with something that isn't so damaging to all of your endocrine system? And the other one I'm going to talk about is stress. And us ladies are doing way too much. And a lot of the things, a lot of the symptoms, well, not a lot, some of them, like brain fog and poor concentration, forgetting names, they are for sure symptoms of thyroid issues, but they're also symptoms of overwork and overwhelm. And when we're forgetting names, or we walk into a room and we can't remember why we're there, it can often be that we just have way too much going on in our heads, and we're trying to think about work and the kids and getting lunches made for tomorrow, and have they finished their homework, and am I ready for whatever. It's a huge amount going on. It's absolutely massive, and it's too much. And in my lovely Winter Women group that we've just kicked off last week, the main thing that we're doing there is, yeah, Moya, HRT, same thing, it's a synthetic hormone. The main thing we're doing there, the first thing we started focusing on there is sleep, because we are chronically sleep deprived, and we're sitting up at night time getting our me time when everyone's in bed, or when we finished work and the dishwasher is on and whatever. And we are all, there's 70 women in that group, and we're taking back control of our bedtime, and we're going to bed early. And there are 2 magic hours every 24 hours where your hormonal system reboots itself, and that is from 9 until 11 o'clock at night. And if you can be asleep for even half of that time, even a quarter of that time, you will give your body some chance to start healing itself and rebooting. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight and to leave you with tonight. It's sleep and stress. Have a look at where the stress is in your life. See if you can reduce it, if you can cut it out, if you can give it to somebody else. What's causing the stress? Is it that you're so exhausted you're not able to be prepared and you're on catch up the whole time, or have you just taken on way too much in the first place? The body can only take so much, and the thyroid is often what suffers when we're really, really worn out. So that's what I'm leaving you with tonight. I'd love you to start looking at your sleep and get to bed early tonight. I'm going to bed as soon as I finish this. And since we started this, the Women's Winter Retreat, a lot of us are back reading again. We're in bed at 9, half 9, and we're reading, and it's really nice. And it's just so much better for us than lying on the couch, falling asleep and feeling exhausted. And that's it, Sandy saying hello. All right, ladies, I'm going to leave you with that. If there's any comments, I will come back in tomorrow and answer them. And if anybody would like to come into the private group, Homeopathic Solutions for Problematic Periods, you are more than welcome. So I'm going to go. Good night.